Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Ukraine Crisis Media Center started its work. And the topic of the first press briefing is presentation of awareness program of the danger of mines and results of research and knowledge and handling of mines and exploded ordnance. And our speakers are Giovanna, Barberis, head of the UN Children's Fund, UNICEF, and also Mr. Melnychutskyi from Emergency Service and the representative of the Ministry of Education of Ukraine. Please take the floor.
To all of you. Thank you very much for being with us today, and I would like to really congratulate also on this International Day the Ministry of Education and the State Emergency Service for the excellent partnership throughout 2015 and very promising and continuing to be very promising for 2016. Unfortunately, we are well over 2 years into the conflict in the eastern part of the country. Among 3.7 million conflict-affected people in Ukraine, 580,000 are children. And children continue to suffer very much the consequences, the impact of this conflict. And particularly due to the risk that they are running every single day because of mines and unexploded objects, particularly in their areas that are affected by the conflict. I am very pleased today, on the occasion of this International Day on Mine Awareness, to share with you some very fresh data that were gathered by a household survey that was carried out in Donetsk and Lugansk regions by UNICEF and by DRC DDG, a very good partner, an implementing partner of UNICEF on mine awareness. And it is a survey that assesses the knowledge, the attitude, and the practices on mine risk education in these areas. Now, some of the findings are extremely alarming. We have, for easy reference, produced some leaflets, and infographics that summarizing the main findings. According to this survey, reportedly 26% of all respondents and 13% of all children have seen a mine and or an explosive remnant of war. Importantly, they have seen these items in what would have otherwise be considered as safe areas, such as roads, field, streets, gardens, so playgrounds, so areas and places where normally children do go for playing or for just as using normally to go to school or home. If seeing a mine or an exploded device, every 6 girls and every 10 boys aged 11 years old would either choose to act wrongly or simply do not know what to do. So this is, again, extremely important finding, showing how important it is to strengthen even further and accelerate all activities related to mine risk education. Another finding which is quite revealing is that in case they find themselves in a minefield or mined territory, children not know what action they should take. 24% of these children aged 6, 17 years old would just simply run away, and 18% would simply not know what to do at all. So again, another very important data, another important findings telling us really very much on what we need to do. Nearly 19% of all respondents had entered mine or explosive ordinances suspected areas, including over 8% of all children respondents. So you can see that it's quite high, the percentage of people and children that in a way or in another have come very close in contact with mines or unexploded devices. 24% of girls and boys from 6 to 11, for example, don't know how to read, the marking systems. This is also extremely important. There should be clear signs, and children should know how to identify and to read these signs well in order to prevent any accident. I am very pleased to, again, as I said at the beginning, to be here with the colleagues from the Ministry of Education, the Deputy Minister, and our close partners from the State Emergency Service, with whom we have worked from the very, very beginning. We have worked on the production and the dissemination and the education of mine risk education activities. We have reached with a lot of materials produced, something like over 500,000 children and caregivers. This is a very important part of our activities. But we have also, again, also with our partners of the Danish Refugee Councils and the Swiss Foundation, we have also trained 578 teachers and local leaders to become mine risk educators, which is quite a new issue, let's say, for Ukraine, and therefore really, really crucial and key to enable them to share the information and alert children properly. Another result that was achieved throughout 2015 is the fact that we have organized some specific sessions, life-saving mine risk education lessons and sessions for around 56,000 children and caregivers in the most affected areas of the eastern Ukraine. So this is to say we have done a lot last year. Certainly is not enough, and we are actually in the process of launching a new education campaign that will look more at the specific risks and requirements for the different ages of children. This includes, for example, cartoons for small kids or comic stories and engaging websites for teenagers or outdoor advertisements, so to diversify basically the information and to reach appropriately all children and young people with messages that are tailored for their age. We are hoping this way to reach as many children and as many teenagers as possible. Hopefully it will impact positively on their information and the prevention that is needed to avoid accidents. And so we will be able to repeat this survey in 1 year time to look at the hopefully positive trends. So thank you very much, and I'll be happy to respond to any question if any. Thank you.
Дякую, пані Giovanna. До слова запрошується.
Thank you, Giovanna. And now I give the floor to the first Deputy of Emergency Service of Ukraine, Oleg. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank the organizers of this press briefing for invitation and for the opportunity to take part in this event. State Emergency Service of Ukraine is one of the key entities in demining activities, and also we observe all the requirements, and we are responsible for carrying out the tasks of demining the territory. In order to demine, we have three-level system of demining, and now there are 83 squads for demining activities, and now I would like to say that there are three major tasks. First is clearance of the territory and water from unexploded ordnances and mines. Then to carry out training in order to complete these tasks. And the third one that is very important is information campaign and training of population and education of population connected with these unexploded ordnance. And our specialists, they carry out 25 works during 24 hours, and they demine about 115 exploded ordnance daily. And during 2015, we cleared more than 50,000 unexploded ordnance, and the most danger is in the territory of Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast because of the aggression by Russian Federation against our state. And from July 2014, our specialist carried out the clearance of more than 11,000 hectares of land, and also water bodies, and also clearance of institutions and facilities. And they deactivated more than 55,000 objects. And there are, of course, very dangerous explosive objects that are some explosive devices that are masked and hidden, and they look like toys for children or some objects, and this is directed against civil population. And our specialists, they deactivated 760 objects like this, and because of this ordinance, there are some people among peaceful population that were killed or injured. So we should carry out information campaign and to increase awareness, and this is one of the priorities. And we work on this task in the framework of this humanitarian demining and clearance. And the priority here is the question and the issue of working with kids, because kids are, they should be aware of mines, and the children, they are curious. And that's why we should carry out the information campaign, and together with the Ministry of Education, we conduct campaigns in schools and in kindergartens. It is called the Week of Safety, and they discuss how to behave in case of finding these unexploded ordnance. And also we work closely with our international partners, OSCE, UNICEF, Danish Council for Refugees, and also there were some materials disseminated and also videos. that are disseminated in different institutions and educational institutions on Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast. And also there are 2 mobile groups in these oblasts. This is due to OSCE, and these groups are equipped and have all the necessary materials and videos in order to carry out information campaign among the population, especially in villages. And also on the side of Emergency Service of Ukraine, there are some materials. There is some information for children and their parents, and there are main characteristics of unexploded ordnances and mines, and how they should behave in case of finding such objects. Also, this information is provided in the territorial departments of our service and also in administration of oblasts. And the effectiveness of the work has increased due to cooperation with international organizations, and I'm very thankful to all the people who are involved and who are in the territory of our state and to our international partners. And we are ready to take active part in this process, and we hope for further fruitful cooperation. Thank you for your attention. Thank you, Oleg. And now I give the floor to the Deputy Minister of Education and Science. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I came here and before this, they said to me, my colleague said, we have great cooperation with international organizations, with our colleagues from the emergency service. But when I listened to the results of the survey, so I don't have such an optimistic view. And we believe that after the next information campaign, the results will be better. You understand that the lives of children, the life of people, it is the most valuable and important thing. And in education, there are a lot of different events, but things that are connected with life, they cannot be just formal. These are things that should be the key priority for us. And we have many achievements, and of course the ministry did some important things. Some methodological recommendations were provided in order to avoid danger of mines and unexploded ordnances, and that was done in 2014. And also the ministry recommended and carried out some lessons connected with the awareness campaign and how to behave in case of finding these unexploded ordnance mines. And we have also 2 subjects in our curriculum, and they are connected with health and of our children, and there they use leaflets and video materials in order to provide information of information on mines and that the behavior of people in case of finding these objects. And also volunteers are involved in these activities, and they can provide people with information on this. And it's nice that they are involved. Not only teachers, but also volunteers are important providers of this information. And also about the role of Danish group, Danish demining group. Their role is very important in this process. And also psychologists in the institutions. So they have materials, and they teach the teachers how to effectively use the materials during the lessons. And also Switzerland Fund they also provide information on mines and demining activities. And also the Cabinet of Ministers provided a document on the 5th of March this year They created a special program on demining activities for the years 2017-2020, and it was prepared by the Ministry of Defense. So we carry out our organizational activities, and together with our partners, we disseminate leaflets and other forms of information. And the results are not great because many children are not well informed how to behave in case of finding these objects. That's why we have a lot to do in the future. And I believe that together during this year, we will do everything possible to increase awareness of our kids, because this can save lives of our children. And we thank you very much for cooperation, and let's work together in the future. Thank you. Now questions, and please introduce yourself first. Good afternoon. 1+1 channel. I would like to ask Oleg, and can you tell us what is the number, the general number of people who suffered because of an exploded ordnance, because we know there are many mines around villages, and what is the number of children who suffered? So what is the scope of this? And can you tell us about the work ahead? So what are the areas where these mines are located, and what areas should be demined? What is the scope of the problem? Can you assess it? Thank you very much for your question. As to statistics, we don't have such statistics as to the dead and wounded because of these mines and exploded ordnance. This information is in the competence of law enforcement bodies. And as to the territories of our countries that are mined, that are the territories of Donetsk and Lugansk oblasts, and the most difficult situation is there. So near the line of contact where the active military actions happened, and also in the territories that were free from the occupation and the territory that is close to the line of confrontation. So we carry out the work. It's very difficult to assess the situation because there are some military actions that are happening now, and that's why we don't know what will be the overall scope of this. And we work daily, and our groups come there if some people find some unexploded ordnance and mines, and also there are some groups that clear the territory from the mines and unexploded ordnance. Also, we conducted intensive, you remember about the events of the Second World War, and we know about the regions that are mined the most. These are the places where the heaviest military actions were held. And there is a plan for each year for the clearance of this territory. And according to these plans, they work in these territories and clear the mines there. So the question to you, there was fire in Kiev Oblast in a station. It was some sort of reservoir, and there was a situation that emergency specialists, they didn't have enough equipment to handle the situation. Do you have enough equipment in order to demine territory? You said that you daily carry out 25 actions. No, I mean it is for the whole territory, including the ATO area. And as to the, do you have enough equipment to handle situation in order to clear the territory? And when there was explosion on a station, fuel station in Kiev Oblast, and it's not about our today's topic. We have 83 brigades, demining brigades, and of course we increase our potential, and 3 projects are introduced in order to support us, and this support is provided by the USA, and our European partners and international organizations are involved. And it is technical help in order to equip our departments with modern means and with modern equipment. And all the tasks that are before us in the sphere of humanitarian clearance, we have all necessary equipment according to international standards on demining. So the last question. Mr. Klemenik, I'm a journalist and a lawyer, and also I'm an instructor on demining. And that's why I have a question to all the participants on cooperation with NGOs on informing of the danger of mines and unexploded ordnance. I would like to hear this information from Ms. Giovanna Barberis, and the Pope also spoke about the danger of mines recently. That's why we have clear arguments that we should increase the activity in this sphere. And also, I have a question to emergency service representative. I didn't hear the information that you have some cooperation with volunteer groups, and we would like to know about it. We want to get this information. What is your cooperation with volunteer groups? And we thank the Ministry of Education for providing such information.
Question actually was, but I just would like to reiterate that UNICEF is particularly concerned with the risk that thousands of children are taking every single day in quite a considerable part of the country, risk of jumping on a mine or any sort of explosive or unexploded device. We are concerned with their protection. And again, as it was already mentioned, we don't really have reliable data on the number of accidents that children have had, or a number of children that have been killed. At a certain point, we had some data from the Ministry of Health, but it was only related to a certain period of time, and unfortunately, this is something that needs to be supported, and it is important that we have the right figures. But the risk is huge. The risk is huge, and also I believe the number of accidents are quite high. So all we need to do, together to prevent is key, is extremely important. And if we can also enlarge, the number of partners that would join this effort, of course, we would be more than grateful. Thank you.
Дякую за запитання. Я вже говорив, що у нас
Thank you for your question. Our ministry is open for cooperation with NGOs, with different funds. And at the stage, we don't have problems in this. And we were informed about the death of school children, whether it is some traffic accident or illness. And I asked my colleagues whether we had information about the explosions and the death of the results, but we don't have this information, the statistics. We say that we monitor through this line, but I have a question to Giovanna, Barberis, and what is going on in the territory that is occupied, because our children are there, and this territory will be returned to Ukraine someday.
There is very, very little, if none, information on what is happening with this specific issue, the mine, risk issue in non-government controlled areas. I mean, we have maybe some information on what is happening along the contact line, on both sides of the contact line, which is and remains, the most critical area. But unfortunately, we are also facing problems in gathering data from the other side. Yes, that's the reality today.
Пане Олеже, чи вам є що додати?
Can you add something? I would like to answer the question that was addressed to me. Stay a little bit back. So, our service carry out awareness campaign. It actively cooperates with volunteers and NGOs. And also there is dissemination of materials, of leaflets that are created. And we want to inform the biggest number of people, especially children, and to make them aware of the dangers. Thank you, Oleg. Thank you, Giovanna. Thank you. And this is the end of our press conference. Thank you.